Are you using gene testing to guide your choice of antidepressants? Perhaps you've thought, it doesn't cost much, so if it improves outcomes even a little bit, of course. But then your impression of efficacy is subject to multiple cognitive biases, right? So we really need a randomized trial of pharmacogenomic testing that was not deeply sponsored by the lab tests manufacturer. And finally, we have one. At the starting line, then, imagine 2,000 people with a PHQ-9 of 10 or higher. The finish line, Remission, is a PHQ-9 of 5 or less. Half the participants have genomic test results when their antidepressant decision is made, and half do not. That control group gets their results 6 months later. And they're off. Will the genomic testing push more people over the remission finish line? Answer: it depends on when you look. 4 weeks? No. At 8 weeks, the results now group is edging ahead of the results later group. At 12 weeks, the now group is statistically significantly ahead in terms of achieving remission. And then, as the race continues, at 18 weeks, the difference is shrinking, and at 24 weeks, it's gone. Was it worth it? Well, wait a minute. Remember the old, it was statistically significant, but was it clinically significant question? Let's look at that 12 weeks advantage, the largest one. In the results now group, the remission rate was 16%. Yeah, this is a tough crowd. Veterans, 60% with PTSD and other reasons for treatment resistance. In the control group, who were tested but whose results would only become available after 6 months, so the clinicians provided treatment as usual, the remission rate at 12 weeks was 11%, 16% versus 11% at 12 weeks. Less of a difference before and after that. Well, that's a big percentage difference, but maybe a relatively small absolute difference? Well, compare the reductions in PHQ-9 scores. At 12 weeks, the results now group had dropped their scores by 5.3 points. The results later group, 4.4 points. The genetic testing improved outcomes by 1 point on the PHQ-9 at maximum. By 24 weeks, it was a third of a point. Well, you can tell I'm not a convert to genetic testing, so take the following 3 quibbles with a grain of salt before we turn to conclusions. First, note that the results now group got what they were hoping for, genetic testing, and the results later group got disappointed. Second, the results now group was instructed to call in if they'd not been started on an antidepressant in 10 days, and that group was slightly more likely to actually receive an antidepressant, 75% versus 69% of the control group. And third, the genetic test was explained in brochures and a website and a video, and all of these were immediately relevant and presumably reinforcing of hope, but only for the results now group. Similarly, the test manufacturer makes available a call center for questions, and they knew the veteran's name from the test result code for personalized support. But the test is not all that expensive, right? Ooh, that depends. According to a National Public Radio story, the test costs about $2,000 in the United States. Some insurances will cover that. Some leave the patient with as much as $330 out of pocket. One way or another, in the United States, we're paying the manufacturer over $100 million a year for this. I must sound like one of those old doctors who thinks a stethoscope is a perfectly good way to diagnose pneumonia, so who needs an X-ray, let alone a CT scan? Well, these pharmacogenomic tests will get better. For now, how much shall we all pay to help 5 more patients per 100 achieve remission at 12 weeks and land a point lower on the PHQ-9, when treatment as usual will get them outcomes equal to the testing group 3 months later? If we could divert and direct that money, would we spend the $20,000 those 100 tests actually cost to do something else? There's more here in this paper, including data on how many patients got metabolically appropriate antidepressants, for example. Unfortunately, no data on side effects, which would really matter in that respect, although these may be forthcoming data in another publication because they were assessed. Oh, and notice the journal This is JAMA, the Journal of the American Medical Association, not JAMA Psychiatry. So this is a milestone publication, regardless of what you make of the results.